Hello, VOD people. We are back with the Bad Takes bracket. This is something Ramsan put together. I believe he fielded 16 bad KH takes, objectively bad. We're going to be going through all of them, fully understanding what objective means, and crowning the king of the terrible KH takes. I am joined, once again, by Kiwi. Kiwi, how are you? First of all, Kiwi, how was your day?
It was a pretty good day. It's pretty nice outside.
Yeah, it is nice. It's like 50-something, 56.
Which always helps.
Yeah, it's always good.
I've decided that summer is my favorite season.
I think that's entirely fair. Yeah, I think that's got to be. It's got to be top half. You know, I think if you don't have summer at 1 or 2, that's a bad take as well. So
yeah, I'm happy to be here. Happy to be here.
Good. Happy to have you.
Game. Yes, and to be here. Sure.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, I was asked to show my shirt. This is an Axel shirt. I believe my sister got it for me. Got it memorized, baby.
Oh my god.
How about
I
that?
have the same shirt.
How about that? Twins! I didn't know.
My sister got it for me.
Oh my god! Wow. That's crazy.
So much fun.
That's crazy. We're brothers in shirts. That's nuts.
Wow. That is really exciting for us.
It's very, very thrilling. Let me know if the background music is too low or too loud, and I'll try to adjust that. But without further ado, I think we're ready. So Kiwi, I guess we have to lay some ground rules here. We're voting on the worst take. Like, we're not advancing the most palatable of the bad takes. That sounds kind of complicated, right? So I think we're just going to be like, what is the most egregiously bad take here, and put it all the way at the top. Does that make sense? Like, does everyone in chat understand that? Or is anyone having any qualms with that? Because I think that's the best way to do it. That's what I advertise it as, at least. Like, I think that makes the most sense. To advance what is the worst. All right. Let me send the bracket to Vodka. I guess the second component is, Kiwi. Are we gonna vote, and then chat's gonna be the third voter, and then it's best 2 out of 3? What do you think?
Well, yeah, if we need one, right? Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess if we don't agree, right?
Yes.
But I guess if I think one thing and the chat thinks the same, then I guess you're shit out of luck.
That's fine.
But I feel like we're probably, I don't know, we'll see. Because I feel like this first one is already pretty contentious. Vodka, let me know
I'm
if that
gonna try to control myself here. I can see this getting off the rails really quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a frustrating bracket to look at.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. So Ram says, for context, the takes had to be both bad and popular. No, I agree, right. And these have to be things that like I have seen before. I don't think there's anything on here that I've never seen, and in fact, most of these things I see a lot.
Yes.
So, for context, the takes had to be both bad and popular. Saying, like, Kingdom Hearts is bad or Dream Drop Soar is intelligent wouldn't qualify because no one believes that. Exactly. There you go. All right. So, just from the jump here, we have a 1 versus A. Donald is bad at healing in the 1 seed, and Disney World should be scrapped going forward in the 8 seed. And I don't know about you, Kiwi, but I think the 8 seed here, this Disney World's take, is one of the worst takes on the bracket, like, already. Just from, like, glancing at it, I honestly think I might want to advance it over Donald is bad at healing, because it's like a fundamental misunderstanding of everything. Whereas, like, I can see where people are coming from with Donald is bad at healing. I understand that. Like, I've seen examples of it, but, like, I cannot wrap my brain around Disney World's not being in the games anymore. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I actually agree. I think that the first one, Donald's bad at healing, is just kind of a misunderstanding of how to play, the game, and it's kind of just like spun out of control.
Yeah, it's a meme.
The Disney World should be scrapped is just the ultimate bad faith take.
Yeah, it's really bad. And like, I guess what's really frustrating about that one is like this sort of smugness about like, oh, the only way the series can be good moving forward is to get rid of this Disney schlock that's dragging everything down. But like,
Hooey.
Like, it's hooey. It's such a misunderstanding of like how the games are made, like, who's involved with making the game. Like, it's just like, even in the side games, right? Like, even in games that are, like Days or Chain of Memories, like they're still inserting the Disney stuff in there, even though they're not like the following the traditional formula of the mainline games. It's just so bad. And like the idea that, I guess there's like what's also frustrating about it is like there are people who like genuinely think that that's where things are going. Like they think KH4 might not have Disney stuff in it still.
Yeah.
Like even after the trailer. Like that's bonkers. Like it's just it's beyond me. I called it in the channel the community post a micro brain take, and like I'm not usually that like cutting with my commentary, but like it really is like just demonstrating such a deep misunderstanding of the series. And also, it's good. Like, Disney Worlds are good. Like, they're fun.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, people act like the Disney Worlds are, like, so bad. But it's like, how could you even enjoy this shit? Like,
right.
Minimally, if you think it's that bad. Like, it's not even... It's 90% of the game, I feel like, most of the time.
Right, exactly. So it's like, if you're playing for those 10% pieces of each game, like, that's weird. Like, you couldn't even make one full mainline Kingdom Hearts game out of all of the non-Disney World stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you could take the original parts of 1, 2, and 3, put it all together, and that's still not, like, the runtime of a full-length game. So, like, I have no idea what these people are on about. It's a crazy upset, like, and we're all long on the record. Kiwi and I both hate Donald's bad at healing. Not as much as some other things on here, I think, but, like, we've long been established as haters of that take, but this 8 seed is just so bad, so I think it has to go through.
I think it's the worst take. You see Donald is bad at healing a lot more often, but the other one is just so egregious and douchey, and it needs to move on. I mean, so aggressively terrible.
And again, I've been in spots where like, oh, Donald didn't heal me, or like I healed myself and then he healed me right after. Like, I know it. Like, I get it. Like, it's over exaggerated. There are ways to circumvent that and to mitigate like his healing, issues. But the 8 seed's so bad. So let's advance it. I think we're all in agreement there. Feels like the chat also agrees with it. Rama says the only reason 8 is seated so low is because I don't hear it as much. Thankfully, like I hear it enough that it definitely should be on here. But I agree. You definitely hear Donald's bat healing more. I feel like Disney World's being scrapped. That's like a very vocal minority of the fan base. But boy, are they vocal.
It is the correct seed line, but it's just if we're looking. It's
so powerfully bad.
I mean, I see what Ramsgum is. Doing here, it makes a lot of sense that the more frequent one is the higher seed.
No, absolutely.
I probably would have seeded it the same. It's just, now that we're actually filling it out, it's like, the dog shit must move on. So that's what we go with.
So moving on to the 4-5, we have at 4, collecting the crabs in the Caribbean is bad, versus the 5, the organization having hearts is a retcon. I'm kind of in the middle on this. What do you have any initial thoughts on this, Kiwi? Barnabas has a little message here that I want to read.
Go for it.
I still am inclined to think of this as a retcon, though one that may have been decided pretty early on. A big reason is the exposition dump we get from Yen Sid. He's the one who relays the info on nobodies, and he's never called out on being wrong. He's treated as a trusted authority on KH lore even after the revelation. This does not suggest to me that he was meant to be wrong when the scene was written. I suppose, like, I don't see why Yen Sid can't be wrong, and, like, just because he's never called out on it doesn't mean that he wasn't wrong. I think, like, the nature of nobodies is really only something that originates from, like, Xemnas. Like, I feel like he controls the narrative. Like, he is the first sentient nobody, unless I'm mistaken. But does that sound right to you, Kiwi?
What's that?
Like, Xemnas is, like, the first sentient nobody, right? Like, he's the person who, like, controls the narrative about how these things work. So I'm guessing that Yen Sid, like, gets his information through the grapevine of Xemnas, like, spreading that to, like, his peons, and then, Yen Sid looking in on things. Like, I don't think it's a ridiculous thought to think that even as far back as KH2, we're being told, hey, nobodies don't have hearts, they can't grow them, they are completely devoid of emotion. Even though Yen Sid is somebody who is helping propagate that, I still think he can be wrong, and I still think that twist could have been planned out as far back as KH2. It's one of the few KH things that I do think was planned fairly in advance. But I don't know.
I don't think it was.
Okay.
I think they actually, because they just say it so often, like, they really want you to believe it, right? Like, I feel like that whole thing gets said, like, 10 times between KH2 and Com, or at least it's kind of implied, maybe not the exact statement, but, like, that they continued to say it over and over again. But it's not until days where it kind of, like,
I
comes
mean,
under more direct scrutiny. I think maybe that's where the turning point.
yeah,
the turning point.
I agree that Days is where it really comes under scrutiny, but I do think like even as far back as Chain of Memories, and maybe I'll give you not calm, but like KH2, like we're seeing these characters exhibit emotions, you know.
Right.
PJ says they want you to believe it is so that it's a twist later. They retcon it immediately in KH2 FM and the novels. Yeah, so I guess if anything, you could say that in 2 and base 2, it was, you know, this was the actual truth of it, but in 2FM, like when you get the scene of Axel and Roxas in Twilight Town after the Roxas fight, where they're having like that metaphysical goodbye scene, and Axel talks about like Roxas, like, do you think it's possible that you have a heart or whatever? Like they're setting it up for that. Like it's going as far back as like 2007. Setting up for this idea that they really are capable of growing hearts. So I don't think it's like this ass pool in 2012 that everyone thinks it is.
No, I don't think it's that much of an ass pool, but like, okay, first of all, what is meant by the novels? What does that mean?
The novels, wait, like what PJ said? Oh yeah, so like the not the manga. I'm holding it on stream here, like the KH novels, which is like just the text-based retellings of the games. They're not like canon, but they are, you know, supplementary, I would say. So I think that's what PJ is referring to. Sorry, Azulmaji, thank you for the 100 bits. I do appreciate that. Sorry, the message got thrown off there. But yeah, I mean, but I guess my issue with this is like I get where people are coming from with it, but I think it kind of demands a bit more scrutiny when you like really look back at the series. Like I get that they're really building it up with this idea that nobody's cannot ever have hearts, but because they explicitly say over and over that they can't, but like everyone's actions, like it's actions versus words basically. The way everyone acts and talks to each other, like I'm not even buying it, you know, halfway through Days by that point. Rom says, I guess the counterpoint is, it was probably always planned for nobodies to have emotions. Was it always planned for emotions to be tied to having a heart? I mean,
yeah, right.
I feel like it's kind of hammered home in all of that initial like lore building about nobodies that like you can't have emotions without a heart. Like I feel like they are mutually exclusive. So, or rather, they are not. I feel like I messed up that phrase, but. I guess let's talk about the crabs then. Let's feel this out. I feel like
let's talk crabs.
Let's talk crabs. So this is definitely a more it's a less macro scale sort of thing, but you know, you and I again are along on the record of enjoying the crab collection. It's a moment of, you know, encouraged exploration in KH3, something that you never get in KH2. You know, it's even featured in the Trump-Biden debate video that I did, where, you know, oh no, we don't have to walk in a straight line, go A to B to move on to the next cutscene. Like, we actually have to, like, look around and use our observational skills. I think, God... Again, I kind of get where people are coming from, because, like, it's a lot of crabs, right? It's 300. Maybe if it was, like, 200 or 100, it wouldn't have been so egregious. But, like, it's really only going to take you, like, 10 minutes at most. At absolute most. If you're, like, really bad at the game, I still think it only takes 10 minutes. So, crab collection is inorganic exploration, but the world itself is actually good. I mean... yeah, but only in the way that, like, every game having you explore but not being open world is pretty much, like, inorganic exploration. Like, if you're in KH1 and you're trying to get to the Cave of Wonders and you're in Agrabah, like, is that inorganic exploration because, like, that's the goal, is to explore your way over to the Cave of Wonders? Like, you have a task at hand, you know what I mean?
Isn't it, like, the most organic exploration?
I guess this person's saying that it's inorganic because it's like, hey, you have to, like, fill up this meter and then you're done exploring. But I think it's only because there's, like, a counter on screen that anyone would call it inorganic. Like, I feel like...
But it doesn't stop you when you hit that mark, though. You can keep going.
That's true. That's true. You're not, like, forced to, like, stop at 300, so...
Yeah.
I like crab collecting, even if I was a tad confused why crabs and not, like, wood. I know it was to appease the goddess, but at first it'd be odd. Yeah, I mean, I guess, like, on the lore side of things, it's a little weird. But in terms of, like, the gameplay side of things, I think it's, like, such a breath of fresh air. Even in KH3, which I feel like is better at exploration than 2. It's really nice to just, like, have a stretch of time where you're just, like, able to roam around an area and, you know, check things out. Like, be curious. Intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. I guess that makes more sense, yeah. I guess this is more of an extrinsic motivational factor when it's asking you to, like, get all these crabs. But, I don't know. I like the sound the crabs make, says Homosaur, but that's it. That's my insight. It is a great sound. It feels great to collect the crabs.
It does.
I really don't know what to do here, Kiwi. I don't really know what to advance.
I think I would vote for the crabs because, like, even if I'm kind of being swayed on, like, the actual matter at hand on Seed 5 there, like, I still feel like there's probably, like, an open debate that could still be had. Yeah. Number 4 is just, like, such a little, like, nitpicky, bitchy thing to, like, get fucked up over. Yeah. That, like, that one is far more annoying to me.
Yeah, like, I think I'm more passionate about the crabs.
In the conversation on number 5, but number 4 just feels like, again, so bad faith to me. Like, I just hate it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm more passionate about that, and I think we should put that through. Crabs lost the poll, but I think Kiwi and I are in agreement that it's more annoying to hear about that, I think, than like, I'm not really annoyed. I'm like, oh, well, like, I guess. Like, when someone says, oh, they retconned, I'm like, I don't think so, but, you know, you do you. With the crabs, I'm like, shut up. Shut the fuck up. You know? So
well, I think the crab collection is just kind of just like a piece of a larger bitching about Cage 3.
Yeah, you're puzzle. Right. It's a symptom, yeah.
Yes, it's just part of a larger wave of, like, every single thing a Cage 3 makes you do is, like, a reason to bitch. Yeah. So, that included. So I think it's just kind of carrying the flag for Cage 3 nitpicks there.
Yeah, it really is, like, the poster boy of it. How fitting, the Kairi track just ended as we get to this Kairi take. Well, first, I have a redemption here to do the crab rant. Really quickly, let me see. I'm missing you playing now while I do this crab rant. Collecting the crabs is good. Yes, during the post-world exploration, but also, and especially yes, during the mandatory part in the campaign. You know why you hate the crabs? Because you're weak. I said it. You have the attention span of a fucking walnut. God forbid we lower our arms and take a few moments, like maybe 5 or 6 minutes, to appreciate this beautiful and thoughtful world design crafted by the developers. Can you bear to explore for just a few minutes? Oh, but it's too long. It's like less than 10 minutes, even if you're really bad. Even if you have the curiosity of dish soap, you're gonna find the crabs in a shorter amount of time than the length of some of this world's cutscenes. That's true, Kiwi, by the way. I found the crabs.
That fucking energy into my veins.
Yeah, I found the crabs in like 7 minutes, and there's an 8-minute cutscene in Cage 3 Caribbean. You'll tolerate an 8-minute cutscene where you do nothing? You'll put up with shooting presents at delinquents or tumble fucking around on the magic carpet? You'll tolerate escorting Mrs. Potts through her own fucking castle as she's assaulted by wooden crates? You'll accept a cumulative 10 minutes of breaking urns, picking out the right data block, and all of that other shit I just mentioned? But you're gonna draw the line at the crabs?
Off of a teleprompter? How
yeah, this is from a script. They want me to read. God. This is like a favorite moment from a video. You're gonna flip your little shit biscuits over using your observational skills in conjunction with Sora's movement abilities to pick up a couple crustaceans? I'd rather do this twice. I'd rather collect 600 fucking crabs than watch Sora use a Gigas to gingerly relocate those green blocks even once. Virum Rex? I'd rather drink Port Royal's harbor water. This irrational hatred for the crabs is a mark of modern gamer laziness. You want your Fortnites delivered directly to your house? You want your Genshins to immediately be impactful? But sometimes it takes just a little bit of elbow grease, a little bit of acting like a fucking adult, and exploring this gorgeous and bustling port town to, mind you, level up your own goddamn pirate ship. It's time to grow up and get crabs. Okay, yeah, there you go. There's the crab rant. I should have done it as Bentley. I'm not doing it as Bentley. It's not happening. There you go. All right. So now let's get on to the next bracket matchup here. We have two borings. We have Cage 2 Prologue is boring at 3 versus Kairi is boring at 6. Kiwi, can we start with your thoughts? I need to like get my breath again here.
Well, you see, one of these two takes is not a bad take, and the other one is atrocious.
And I'm guessing
boring is not a bad take.
Oh boy. Well, I don't think Kairi is inherently boring, but I think, I guess this is kind of like ticky-tack, right? Like, I think what they're doing with her is boring, you know? I don't think her as a character, but the context and the situations that she's put in lend for boring situations, right?
I don't even know what the difference is.
Yeah. I guess, like, her as a character, right? Like, in a vacuum of what she gets to do. Like, if you get to imagine, like, take how Kairi acts in certain scenes, but put her in more interesting and engaging situations, I don't think she's a boring character. But the spots that she's put in, which, again, is part of, like, how she's written, like, her being a damsel for most of KH2, being asleep for most of KH1, you know, being sidelined in KH3 and Melmem, like, those are situations that do not complement her strengths as a character, I guess, because we do see sparkles of like glimmers of strength as from her as a character, but they're not utilized properly. So as Gorilla says, Nomura failed Kairi. Like, he's a bad dad. So I just like I'm inclined to agree that it's the more agreeable take than the KH2 prologue being boring. Like, I think that's and again, I can see points, like, if you're on your, 17th replay of KH2 for some reason, it'd be nice to be able to skip the prologue. Like, it's kind of bonkers that by the remix, like, there's not a button that, like, just lets you, hey, we've seen, you had to play it once on that file or on that on that system. But if the game can check and see, like, oh, I see you have a file where you've already done the prologue, would you like to just skip to Sora? That should probably be, like, a quality of life thing. But in terms of, like, the meat that game gives you in terms of its story content, this is one of the best parts. We always talk about this. It's one of the 3 parts of KH2 where the game is saying anything, like, meaningful or interesting. And I think to just, slap it, paint it with this broad brush of it all being boring, I think is such a disservice to, like, some of the strongest narrative stuff in the series, I think.
Yeah, so. Definitely. I mean, okay, first of all, the Kairi stuff. Like,
yeah, go ahead.
I've seen a lot of, like, well, Kairi's not boring, but she's written boring. But, like,
right. It's kind of
failing to see what the difference is, because it's like, video game characters don't have
they're not real.
Free will. I mean, I don't understand. Like, there's no difference, really. I mean, every character could be conceptually cool, but if they hardly really do anything, then, I mean, I'm not really, like, excited by the character,
I hope what
like,
I tried to
any character in interesting situations, and then they'll be more interesting. But she's just not in that many. I don't understand.
Yeah, I guess the thing that I was trying to get across was that, like, as a character, like, the traits that she is given, like, the writing that she is given, like, I don't think is boring. It's that, like, what they do with the character, if that makes sense. Like, obviously, the stuff that she does and the places that she goes and the people she talks to, like, that is a part of her writing. But, like, I think it's separate enough that I can say, like, I've seen her as a character on her own, and I believe in the potential there, but, like, the way they use her is incorrect. Like, it is part of her writing, but it's not, like, her as a character, I guess. Which, I don't know if I'm making that clear, or if that's, muddying the waters there, but I think that I understand that Kairi is not, like, a sentient being who can, choose to be not boring. Right.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I want Kairi to be fun and everything.
Right.
I just really haven't, like, had that. I just feel like there's not that many, like, exciting moments, like, compared to a bunch of the other characters. They take a lot of the interesting moments, and there's not much left, it seems. I mean, it's unfortunate, but I think this is just the reality we live in. It's just not there as often and as interestingly as others.
Like Carly says.
Go ahead.
Carly says in the chat, like, right now she's boring, but she has potential, and I agree with that. Like, I think she has massive upside moving forward. I think with how Melmem ends off, and I guess we've kind of been saying that since, like, KH2. Like, I feel like the Kairi upside is coming, like the big upswing for Kairi being just around the corner. Like, that's something we've kind of been telling ourselves since 2006. And I think, again, I think it really waters down some really good moments she has, that she never does anything or that she's pointless. Like, I feel like she has at least one great moment in each of the mainline games. Like, the Promise cutscene is great. Her and Sora returning from the final world, I love that. When she, like, starts kicking ass in KH2 with the Keyblade, that's great stuff. But it's few and far in between, and I do think we're still waiting for peak Kairi. Whereas I do think, like, some of these characters, we've already seen their peak. I can't really, I guess if we really needed to, we could pick out a peak Kairi moment, but it wouldn't feel like on par with any of the other original characters' peak moments. So, Anyway, prologue.
Yeah.
Go to the prologue.
The
Whatever you want.
prologue is just great.
Yeah.
I think kind of going back to the attention span lacking. It's like, yeah, I mean, it takes 3 hours, but I mean, if you can, just get through that because your Sora hype is so high. I mean, I just feel like you're missing out on a lot of fun stuff. By I think it's like, I don't know. I mean, it's not that grueling. The more I play it, the more smooth it feels to me.
Like, I get it if you're 9 and you're just like so excited to get back into the swing of sort of going to Disney worlds, but like,
I think that's more acceptable.
Most of us talking about this right now, we're in our 20s. like
yes.
Do you like? I don't know. Is TikTok really having that bad of an effect on our attention spans? Like, can we not like?
If you're 9, I think it's fine. If you're 29, I think you're like.
I think like get an appointment. Like All right. KH2 prologue is boring as gun advance. We've talked the Kairi thing to death. Guys had another good point in there. The way Kairi's actions or lack thereof are written into events may be boring, but her core values have an opportunity to be interesting. I agree with that big time. Fortune says, us being like, no, she's just getting started. Kairi will have her time to shine in the next game is our Lucy and Charlie Brown with the football. And that is so true. Like, we're Charlie Brown, ready to enjoy this Kairi character development, and then Lucy Nomura pulls the football out from us. It's very sad.
When it happens, I would be when the Kairi character development and non-boring shit happens, I will be happy to fight back on this take.
I think we're all rooting for it, right? Like, I think anybody who might agree that the Kairi's boring take is true, I don't think we're like and good. Like, we're glad she is. Like, we all want her to do better. So
that's right.
Okay, so I have a sorted history with both of these, I suppose. At the 2 seed, we have KH1 movement / combat is clunky, the big C word, or we have in the 7 seed, Mickey Mouse is a war criminal.
Okay.
So I have perpetuated the 7 seed, but I have backpedaled on it. I have made amends with the mouse. I don't call him Michael anymore, and we're on speaking terms again. The whole thing about him and Aqua, like, it's long dead and buried at this point. I cover it in the myth video where I talk about all the different all the myths and I debunk them, and that is one that I helped perpetuate because I was unclear on the timeline for the longest time about what happens in BBS and what happens in 0.2. He leaves her there for 1 year. There are reasons why he can't go back and get her. I get it. I'm on the same page with everybody now. So I don't know how big, like, again, that's a 7 seed. I feel like that's meme potential. That's kind of like the Donald one at the top. Whereas the KH1 movement and combat is clunky. How do I want to approach this one?
Can I talk about the war criminal first?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't have much to say other than I think it's just... why is this on here?
Yeah.
Like, I think this is a regular Pat thing, and you don't... It's not so dire outside of this bubble. Like,
no. I think the way it's phrased... Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the way it's phrased is very coming for your audience, right?
Right.
Like, okay.
Yeah. No, I think it's probably more conclusive and clear cut to say like Mickey left Aqua in the Realm of Darkness for 10 years. Like, I think that is like really what we're looking at here. And like at a point, like, it's not even a take, it's just like not true, So I feel like by default you kind of have to move the 2 seed through. Just because like that is something where I was wrong. I was perpetuating an incorrect fact as a goof on the internet, as one does. And I recognized that, and being the great person that I am, I corrected it, So we're all on the same page now. So I think we just advanced the KH1 take by default, and maybe we'll just talk about that once we get up to the next round.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Okay, let's do that. Even though Mickey Mouse War Criminal won the poll, I feel like it's not really in the spirit of the exercise to move it along.
That's right.
Okay. We're going against the chat a couple times here. All right. We have KH3 pacing is off versus the gazing eye has the mom's real eye in it. I'm ready to move KH3 pacing through without even really digging into it. I think there is like enough outside chance of the eye being a real eyeball that I'm not willing to move it forward. I think it'd be really dumb. I hate it so much, but there's like an outside chance that it happens. Maybe it's even more than 50%. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I
No.
think you have to move the eye.
You really? The eye? Oh
Yeah,
man.
I think the eye is worse because, like, okay, here's the deal with the pacing thing.
Okay. Okay.
Like, Cage 3, the pacing in Cage 3,
Yeah.
a lot of the time in the discussion of this, it's being framed against the other games.
I agree.
And
I was just gonna
so
say that.
I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
how, as you've said in videos and, you know, between us and, you know, all these conversations, like, how is it so dramatically worse than these other games, right?
Right.
Like, the middle point, yada yada, but there's those other things that, like, keep it, you know, moving along.
Right.
But, like, in the grand scheme of stories, though...
Oh, yeah,
like,
it's not great.
Are any of these Kingdom Hearts games, like, so insanely well-paced?
No,
like,
I don't think so.
Just, like, scooting along, like, you know, it feels like 20 hours goes by in, like, 10 minutes. It's like, no, I think they're, like, nicely paced, but not like, oh my god, like the greatest pacing I've ever seen.
No, none of them are.
Definitely parts that drag along a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, see, the parts in between, you know, the Twilight Town and the middle point in Cage 2 and then Cage 3. Like, you know, there are, like, the worlds do feel, in my opinion, like, kind of long individually. I mean, I think they're great. I mean, I like being there, but, you know, they do feel like, it feels a little bit like a really big extension, like 3 worlds in one, because we played the other games and, like, okay, they feel very long now.
Because you're only getting 7 worlds.
Cage 3 pacing I could see being a little, you know, contentious. Like, people could actually, in good faith, make a case that, like, the pacing is not stellar.
I agree.
In the game. Okay.
I think if this take was the Cage 3, I know. I think if the take was Cage 3 pacing is so much worse than Cage 2's, then I think it's not even a question that it would have to move through. But now you're kind of convincing me a little bit. Because in the grand scheme of storytelling, no, I don't think Cage 3 has great pacing, nor do I think Cage 2 or 1 does. I'd say maybe Cage 1 has the best out of the 3.
Yeah, Cage 1 does,
So,
well, maybe not great, but better than the other ones.
Right, exactly. I still don't think I'd put Cage 1 in the category of, like, this story is greatly paced out. I don't think video games in general are, like, I don't think that's the strong suit of a video game, just by nature of, like, the amount of time spent on story content and the amount of time spent on gameplay. I'm not saying that video games cannot be paced well, but I think, like, it's probably trickier to do than some other forms of media, but I could be wrong. That's not something I've thought about for months and months, so I'm willing to, you know, revise that. Go ahead with the eye. What's your gripe with the eye?
The eye is my second least favorite take.
Really?
On the whole thing.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
We haven't seen my other least favorite take, but this is so. It's just so nauseating. Like, so cannot. Like, no reading comprehension.
I don't know, man.
Here. Like, it's clearly.
I know.
Not his real eye. Like, I will eat my words.
I know.
If it turns out to be, but, like, I cannot get to the place. Where that actually is reality. Like, I haven't even actually considered. That that's going to be the way it is. Like, I don't. Oh,
I know, dude.
Like,
if you
literal read of something that, like, like, think of what we're talking about here.
I know.
Like, a person could stick their eye into something and then, like,
be able to see.
Like, it's this fantastical concept and everything that everybody agrees on is happening. Yet people can't, like, understand that it's not a real physical fucking eye. God.
All right. Okay. If you talked to me about this 2-3 years ago, I would have been just as furious about this as you, right? Because I agreed. I thought it was really. I still think it's not great. I would prefer that it's not literally an eye. But, like, I have seen arguments about it, you know, being based off of, like, Norse mythology, and, like, you know, we have all these Nordic references now in Kingdom Hearts between the Dark Road of it all. So, like, I don't know, is, like, we're entering a new era of the games. It's a new saga. Like, if I see, you know, the Masters unhoods and he's this, like, pale mannequin guy with a fucking eye gouged out, Like, it's not going to be the craziest thing I've ever seen. Like, I feel like it could go to a weird place where it actually is. And I don't want it to be. Let me be clear on this, Kiwi. I'm not rooting for it. But, like, in a series where, like, body parts are you know, conflated with, like, these metaphysical, powerful things, like hearts, you know? Who's to say that, you can transplant a heart into something and that gives something life? Obviously, in any other form of media, you'd be like, well, of course, putting a heart in something and having life wouldn't actually work. Like, maybe Kingdom Hearts goes to a place where, like, yeah, you put your eye in something, the eye has this, like, magical power of vision, and now you can see things in the future. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Lucius said you because he's a fucking idiot.
I guess I get where people are coming from now more with this. I don't want it to be the case.
No.
I just... Oh, man.
You can move the KH3 pacing one on. That's fine. But
yeah.
No.
I know. I
will never come around on this.
Yeah. I just
Even
think...
if it becomes truth, I will hate it.
I know.
Hate it.
But okay, would you hate it if like they really made it clear, like, hey, we're referencing like this Nordic myth where like this thing happens and like there is some kind of like continuity there, not continuity, but like a clear-cut reference to something from mythology? Is it still bad? Because I hate it less that way.
I would like it more, but that's not happening. So.
Yeah.
They're not going to be so blunt about it.
Right. They're not going to be like, hey, it's like, I guess that's kind of a weird question. Like, they're not going to come out and be like, unless Nomura says in an interview or something. Like, it's not going to be, you know, cleanly stated to us. Yeah, I don't know. I think with the eye thing, like, it's still, like, I don't think it's like completely one-sided. Like, I think there's wiggle room on both sides for it to be true or false. The KH3 pacing thing.
When the characters transfer their hearts, do they transfer their literal organs?
No.
Since when is this the rule? Since when is
no, you're
this
right.
the rule?
You're right. Because I think, you know, we know from KH3 Caribbean that, like, literal hearts do exist, like, anatomically, at least in that world. Maybe they don't in other worlds, I don't know. Yeah, we do, in fact, see... Like, obviously, they're not, like, transferring their literal organs, yeah. So... I don't know. The chat wanted to advance the KH3 pacing thing. Again, I think if it was phrased as KH3 pacing is much worse than KH2's, I think that's a dog shit take. This one, like, you know, Kiwi and I established, in the grand scheme of media, it's, you know, it is off. But I don't know. I think I have to move the KH3 pacing thing along.
That's fine. But
because I think
will die on this fucking hill, though.
Yeah, that's fine. I think and, you know, Rom knows me, has watched the channel for a long time. I think if Rom could go back and rephrase this, he would phrase it to be something with KH3 and 2 being included in the name of this. Because that's, like, the conversation that we're always having and talking about. So,
yo,
maybe we're getting stuck on
semantics.
What is
with this chat? They hate me so much.
They don't hate you. People are just passionate about...
I'm mad about it. Oh, my God.
No, it's fine. That's just Twitch speak. Ribbonfly loves us. It's okay. All right. Okay, Rom concurs that, should we just rephrase it right now? Should we just, like, say, because the bracket maker is here, you know? This isn't like the Constitution. It's not, and you can amend the Constitution, so let's say KH3 pacing is worse than KH2's, because that's really what it is in spirit. Okay? So that'll be the take moving forward. Okay. Egg is not afraid to admit to being a Kiwi fan, unlike some. Alright. It's not a big deal. It's just jokes, okay? Everything's fine. Okay. Story is too convoluted at 4 seed versus KH3 Comblat is too floaty at the 5 seed. What do you think, Kiwi?
You know, I came to an interesting conclusion sometime after KH3. That floaty is not necessarily bad.
No, I agree. I think
that was an interesting thing that happened. I was like, but wait a second. Like, why is floaty just immediately...
Yeah, I think floaty as a word is present, like we always joke about floaty being a slur, because I think that's just the word that is being used to, it is being ascribed to how the combat is in 3 and BBS and Dream Drop. But like in another universe where the hardcore players of these games prefer that, we're probably not using the word floaty. We're probably using the word aerodynamic or something, you know, because like you have such an enhanced range of mobility, and you're able to, you know, pull off extended combos and like have more airtime. Like in another universe where that is something that the more hardcore sect of the fan base values, this whole argument is framed in a different way with different vocabulary. So, right, I don't think there's anything intrinsically wrong about combat being floaty. And again, the word there has this negative connotation to it that doesn't necessarily have to be there. It's just how the narrative has been constructed.
Yes.
So. PJ says, I realized that with Sora, it's intentional after they talked about Sora being light in Smash. Like, they talked about it in a way that made me go, oh, of course Sora is light and airy. Right, it's, like, indicative of his personality. I mean, I think that doesn't hold up to 100% scrutiny when you look at, like, you know, the BBS characters also kind of feeling that same way. When you look at the other characters you get to play as in 3 also feeling like that. Like, Riku probably feels, you know, somewhat similar, maybe less floaty than Sora. Also, if you take into account, like, Sora not feeling as floaty in 1, he feels pretty grounded in that game, actually. So if it is something that is purposeful, it's not something they landed on, you know, until partway through the series. So, yeah, I think I'm more annoyed by that take, just because of how much discourse it is, and, like, how much of a vice grip, like, you know, a certain, like, subcategory of fans are, about the combat and what makes combat good and enjoyable, like really trying to speak for everybody in a way, whereas the story is too convoluted. Like, I think in some spots it is, right? Sometimes it is a bit too convoluted. I think the story convolutedness peaks in the final hours of Dream Drop Distance. It's not like, I think to say like, oh, it's incomprehensible, like, you know, you need like a fucking degree in Kingdom Hearts lore to understand it. I think that is, you know, an over-exaggeration. But I do think there are spots where, like, yeah, this could use a bit of trimming. It could use a bit of cleanup in terms of how things are explained. So I'm inclined to advance the combat one. But people, the chat once again voted for the story being too convoluted. So,
I think the floaty one is more annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because it's not like it's not bad, but people use it, like you said, as a slur. Like, convoluted is a little bit more like clearly a bad thing, but floaty to me is not that way. It's not
I think
just like automatically a negative.
Yeah, I want to highlight what PJ said here. What annoys me about the convoluted thing, though, gamer bros on YouTube who want a quick fix reviews always play KH for the first time and make hour-long videos on the lore. Yeah, so I think the story being convoluted is something that is like a broader take that damages like the Kingdom Hearts reputation in general. Like it's much more of a macro thing, where I think the KH3 combat thing, the floaty thing, is like an insular, like it's very like within the community. Like, I don't think people within the community are arguing too much about how convoluted the story is. Like, that comes from, like, outsiders, so to speak. Whereas the floaty thing is, like, really people who have been with the series for a long time sniping back and forth at each other. So it really just depends on which one of those annoys you more. I think I tend to be more annoyed by the combat thing because I'm spending most of my time with people that are already familiar with the series and generally like it. Whereas, like, I'm not really bothering to click on the Gamer Bro videos because I know that they're bad, you know? Like, if I see a video of somebody's like, I play Kingdom Hearts for the first time and here's everything wrong with it, or here's me explaining how it all works, like, I don't trust that immediately, you know? Like, there's very few Kingdom Hearts things on YouTube that I will bother to click on because I, like, just intrinsically don't trust what the person is doing. So, yeah, I think I want to advance the floaty thing just because it's more annoying to me. I think it's just a more annoying take to hear. But they're both bad. But again, maybe we're getting caught on the semantics here. Story's too convoluted. Like, there's probably a way you can phrase that where I'm more amenable to it. But yeah, I don't know. Are you on the same page with the combat one?
Yes.
Okay, we'll advance that. I dislike them both greatly, though. All right, one of our favorites here is from the hot take, rather the inverse of it. Terra is dumb versus Sora is the master of masters. gut check here is I want to advance the Terra one. I think, like the eye thing, there is like an outside chance that this, comes to pass. I very much dislike it. I like it more than some things, but it's a real race to the bottom. I think we can go and look at Terra's story and like kind of prove this to be an exaggeration, whereas like the jury is still out. Like this is like reading past text versus reading future text, and I'm more comfortable with advancing something where we like have a body of work to look at. So
okay, so my least favorite take on here is the Sora is the master of
really but I thought you hated Terra is dumb. I thought like I feel like when we did hot take tournament, that was like the one that you hated the most.
No, I mean that is the past text one that I hate the most.
In terms of looking forward,
like the narrative that exists out in the world that I dislike more is definitely Sora's the Master of Masters.
Okay.
That is my least favorite Kingdom Hearts thing that exists. If that comes to pass, I will be I'll be pretty distraught over that.
But will you be more distraught if it's Demix or something like that?
I will be equally as distraught.
Okay, equally as distraught. Because I think, and I don't know, maybe it's like the sick, twisted part of my brain, I think I would like it more if it's Sora than if it's Demix. Because, like, there just feels like more connective tissue there for me. Whereas, like, it being Demix is like, okay, he was just, like, the leftover organization member that they didn't have, like, a past tie-in for. So he just gets to be the overarching villain of the entire franchise now. Like, that seems kind of whack to me. Whereas, like, there's a lot of shit about, like, Sora and Destiny and time travel. Like, at least there feels like more groundwork there. Although, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But I feel like I would lose less sleep over it being that. But and
I would lose a little bit of sleep. I'd lose an hour of sleep.
I would lose an hour. Yeah, it'd be like a big daylight savings sort of thing.
Yeah, I'd turn my clock ahead probably an hour.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to get threatened physically or anything, I will definitely go with Terra is dumb because that is a really, really bad take, and it is more solid. We can more solidly talk about that one, so I'm fine with Terra moving ahead.
Yeah, and people mentioned in the chat, like, some of these are takes, some of these are, like, theories, like, which I guess, like, in a way are similar. I think they're, like, cousins, Like, again, we're going retrospective versus prospective, and I think that to say, like, Sora is the Master of Masters is a bad take. I think it's, like, a weak theory, or it's, like, a theory that I'm not a huge fan of. But, like, this is, Terra is dumb is, like, it's an informed take. Like, it's a misinformed take. Like, you have stuff you can look at to prove it wrong, or, evidence to the contrary. Whereas, like, Sora's Master of Masters, like, we're just looking forward, we're throwing shit at the wall, seeing what we can come up with. I'm not as mad at that. Whereas, like, Terra is dumb gets me in my feelings, so.
Yeah, Terra is my favorite character in the whole series, and so when people start dunking on Terra, I do not appreciate that. He's getting taken for a ride, no doubt, but it's a ride that pretty much everybody would get taken on.
Exactly. Aqua and Ven get taken for the same ride, so do Ericus.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a poopy take, and it's fine to move it on. I will just really, really dislike Sora's the Master of Masters.
No, I agree.
I'm
right there with you.
That's great.
Okay.
All right, so next.
All right. Last of our new takes here, we have in the 2 seed, Monstro is too confusing to navigate versus 7. The ice cream line is bad. Now, I think the ice cream line is bad is like in contention with the Kairi one for the one that I am probably most agreeable to. And I've talked about this in my Days video. I don't know if you've seen because that's like a very late moment. It's a long video, Kiwi, but I talk about like my interpretation of the ice cream line. And God, it depends on, like, again, we're getting into semantics of like how this take is phrased. Like, the ice cream line is bad. No, I do not think that it is intrinsically like a bad moment for Days. But I just think that it could have been rephrased. The last thing that Roxas says to Shion being that is tough for me. The way that it's phrased, if it was just like rearranged a little differently, you can still say the words ice cream in it. But I hate that it's an I statement. I hate that it's translated from Japanese in a way that where I think the Japanese version of it is way stronger. And I think we've grown up with like a worse version of this moment. I wish it was like, no, Shion, like, the three of us still, I think that's what they say in Japanese, like, the three of us still have to have ice cream together again, or something. I hate how it's the last thing. I hate how it's delivered in that way. And it's a nitpick. Again, I understand why he says that. So, like, don't come at me thinking, like, oh, you don't get that, like, you know, their entire relationship is on this foundational thing of them meeting up at the clock tower and having ice cream. Like, that's what they understand friendship as, that being, like, the most important thing to them. It makes sense. Like, I get it. It's just how it comes out for me that I don't like. What's your... I think you're an ice cream line appreciator, right?
I'm a huge fan of the ice cream line. It's actually... like kind of the opposite of what you were saying. This is one of the ones that I like. This is one of my worst Kingdom Hearts takes, basically.
Yeah.
The ice cream line slaps.
Right.
Monstro being confusing to navigate, though, is kind of a bad take because the answer exists in the game.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's just something where the game is really kind of... expecting or demanding you to really like talk to the characters around you. Same thing with like the one, like, I don't like the dolphin moment in Atlantica, but you can talk to Flounder and like get a progression hint there. Like, it's still not great. I think that's worse than the Monstro thing. But I mean, the chambers are numbered. There are visual cues in terms of like how the rooms glow. Geppetto will tell you that the green monsters lure you deeper into Monstro if you talk to him. You have to talk to him maybe more than one time. It's not great. Like, I don't think it's like a super clear cut and well presented progression barrier. But I don't know. I guess like by default for me, it's going to be that one. Like, I'm not super passionate about it. Like I was super confused by Monstro when I was a kid. I guess this goes back to like if you're 9 versus if you're 29. I think most kids who play KH1 for the first time are confused by Monstro, or even anybody. Like, I feel like people in their teens and 20s who are playing it for the first time, they're probably confused. You're really, again, you have to assume, the game has to assume that you want to talk to everybody multiple times, and you might not do that, you know? So I don't know. I guess by default I advance that one, because I tend to agree that the ice cream line, it could be better. So also, you're in a whale. It's supposed to be confusing. Yeah.
I think the chat and I are going to agree here.
Yeah.
And take the ice cream.
Removing the ice cream. Okay, that's fine. I'll take the L on that one. The 7 being the 2 there. Monstro is upside down. Yeah, I guess what Ram is saying, like, it's supposed to be... Well, I don't know, Ram. Like, I talked about this in the world ranking back in, like, 2019, I think. But, like, with Wonderland being kind of confusing, I get, because that's, like, baked into the source material. Like, the whole point is that it's, like, a wacky, zany world. So it makes sense that it's, like, difficult to get around and know where you're going. Whereas, like, Monstro, like, what about Pinocchio or what about a whale would like necessitate a confusing and hard to navigate layout? Because like there are plenty of video game levels, like there's that Zelda dungeon where you're inside a beast. There's like an Ape Escape level where they're like much more distinct. Like Monstro is just like the same, you know, floor and wallpaper copy pasted into different shaped rooms. Like they're not like, you're not like going to like different distinct intestinal cavities like Dexter and Ape Escape 1 has like different like internal organ things. Like it's very distinct, whereas Monstro is very samey. So I get that, but no one can talk about Monstro and not think about Hook's ship. No, I agree. Hook's ship also does not have the right to be as like weird to navigate as it is. There's no reason why Hook's ship shouldn't have like room names when you're like entering a room, like most of the worlds do in KH1. It's very bizarre. But yeah, I get it. With the ice cream line being bad is something that most people tend to disagree with here, and Kiwi disagrees with that, so we'll move that along. We gotta move on to the round of the Elite Eight, actually. So
Wow, we are humming.
Yeah, it's a mini bracket, so.
Yeah.
We have Disney scraps. Disney World should be scrapped going forward, or collecting the
scraps.
crabs. Disney scraps, or collecting the crabs in the Caribbean is bad. I think you move the Disney Worlds ahead again.
Yeah,
Like
you do.
it's again another macro versus micro thing, whereas like the crabs thing, like we can have our little debates about that, but the Disney Worlds thing is such a fundamental misunderstanding of the series. So I think you just put that ahead right now. But again, I love collecting the crabs. I think people are big babies about it. So.
Yes.
What lost to the crabs? The organization retcon thing lost to the crabs. Okay. We have KH2 prologue is boring versus KH1 movement / combat is clunky. So we kind of put this one on the back burner because it was up against the Mickey or criminal one. KH1 movement / combat is clunky. I don't agree with that in terms of like the adjective that we use, right? I think clunky, again, like floaty, it's either you're clunky or you're floaty. You live long enough to become floaty or you die clunky, I guess. And I'd rather be clunky, I guess, than floaty in terms of like either of those adjectives being felt in gameplay, because I tend to like how grounded and sort of weighty Sora is in KH1. I think he feels so much more like an underdog, and I kind of like that in video games more than being like all powerful, which I feel like kind of is the feeling that you get in 2 and 3, where you just like have so many things at your disposal. You're just like moving around with such ease. You're just like really running circles literally around some bosses. So, but the KH2 prologue being boring is also so bad. So I don't know. Like it is boring if you're like playing through it and watching all of the cutscenes like for the millionth time, like I guess. But in terms of like looking at the story, like just taking a step back and looking at the parts where interesting things happen, I think it's a disservice to call it boring. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I find it pretty like interesting. I mean, I don't know. I think maybe the same people who might find the KH2 prologue boring, especially the first couple times you do it.
Yeah.
Probably not like a movie that would be called a slow burn or something like that. Like, just because it's not exciting in like the traditional sense where there's a lot of, flashes and stuff like that, doesn't mean it's not interesting. You know? Like there's a line there. KH2's prologue is not fast-paced, but it is very interesting. It's not boring, I don't think. As far as the combat, I have taken very long breaks from Kingdom Hearts in my life. A decade-long break from it at one time, and I returned to Kingdom Hearts 1 and did not find it to be especially clunky or slow or like really difficult to get a handle back on. So I don't really understand.
I think it's a holdover from the PS2 days, to be honest. Like, I'm sure if you go back and play KH1 on PS2, like, using the shoulder buttons to move the camera, like, I'm sure it feels worse. Like, I think it really is a holdover from those days. Like, I just don't think, in the era where we have these games all on the same disc, like, I don't think it's, like, pulling teeth to play KH1. Like, I think it's fine,
Yes.
Bam, bam. Carly says, I dislike the prologue and think it's boring because they contextualize Roxas as a tutorial. I think he deserves more than that, and I dislike that context they put him in his story. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's tough, like, where else do you put it, though? Like, I think it has to be the first thing that you do, and, so it has to share that space with the game teaching you its mechanics. Like, I don't know if, like, you start as Sora, like, the game just starts, you're waking up from the pod as Sora, and then, actually, I don't know, maybe to make KH2 more interesting, you're playing, like, flashbacks as Roxas spread out, like, throughout the Disney worlds. Like, maybe, like, you beat Land of Dragons, and then, like, I don't know how you would convey it in terms of, like, what Sora's doing at this time, but, like, to play a flashback of day one as Roxas, and, like, not have it be a tutorial, but have it be, like, definitely, less combat heavy. Maybe, like, I don't know. I just don't know where else you would space out the Roxas stuff to not designate him into tutorial land. It's certainly an idea, though.
We're getting asked how it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think, like, a lot of the tripped out weirdness of, like, the characters stopping and stuff like that is really kind of freaky and intriguing in its way. It's just, like, really odd imagery kind of keeps it interesting for me.
I mean, it's a mystery,
Well, there's those strange moments, like, when, that makes sense now, but, like, on the first go-through, when, like, Hayner pulls Roxas back from going on the train, that's, like, a really, like, eerie little bit there. I mean, that keeps it interesting to me. Like, there's some very talky scenes that are not, like, so interesting, and, like, getting the cat off the roof is not, like,
right.
shit that it thrills me, but like, there are kind of odd moments, Axel mentioning about other best friends and stuff like that. I want to know more. It keeps me interested. And therefore it is interesting. Those are the same thing to me.
I mean, there's plenty of things.
Interested, it's interesting.
Yeah, there's plenty of things that are going on. I think this, like, to question how is it interesting is kind of nuts. Like, you have, like, this, like, imagine you're playing KH2 with no context of days or anything that happens in that game, and, like, this fucking not heartless monster shows up, steals both photos and the word photos, and refers to Roxas as my liege. Like, how does that not just build intrigue immediately? Well, it's because it's happening in a simulation. Like, that's why the word is not there, because the Dusk was able to, like, corrupt the simulation to also, like, remove the word. Like, they're not able to use it. Then you have, like, Axel showing up, like, freezing time in the struggle tournament. Like, how is that not, like, building intrigue immediately? So, I don't know. Like Lingua Logic says, it's supposed to be confusing. Like, you're supposed to be in Roxas's shoes and wondering what's going on.
I like that all of this craziness is happening in the midst of something that's, like, very relatable to, like, people who were playing the game for the first time, like the summer vacation idea. So it's, like, this very easy thing to connect to, but yet there's all this, like, really supernatural stuff happening around it. I really enjoy.
Well, Kingdom Hearts is always about, like, the juxtaposition of, like, pleasantries and, like, really dark shit, So it's like you said, framing it as, like, this very relatable thing that is typically, like, an enjoyable time for people, but having it, like, gradually get more and more eerie and unsettling, like, that's really compelling to me.
Yes, I love that.
Is this the IGN guy who says Roxas is a garbage character that nobody cares about? I didn't know he watched my stream. I mean, I think I'm more annoyed by people saying the KH2 prologue is boring. Like, I think I'm leaning towards that. Is that where you're leaning?
Yeah, I think so. I think I could believe the second one a little bit more. The first one is also a matter of preference, but like, I could probably be friends with somebody who thinks that KH1 is clunky. I would probably have a little bit harder of a time being friends with somebody who thinks that the KH2 prologue is boring, just dismisses it,
Yeah, I think so too.
I don't know. Like, I think it's just, like, my kind of people would enjoy kind of, like, the weirdness of that. And you always talk about how you kind of like the weirdness of Kingdom Hearts.
Absolutely.
It plays with, like, weird imagery, like Final World and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
I think the series is overall worse if you change the KH2 prologue, whereas I think if you changed how KH1 plays, I think we're still here doing this. I think if you change the KH2 prologue, like, go back in 2005 and, like, cut it, or, like, make it like extremely shorter, I think maybe the series is not as successful as it is, because I think it's so powerful. So I'll advance that. I'm good with that.
Yeah,
I dislike both of the takes, though. I dislike both of these.
Yeah, they both suck ass. Yeah.
All right, KH3 pacing is worse than KH2's versus KH3 combat is too floaty.
Wow,
gut reaction.
Battle of Titans, sir.
Yeah, it's the story complaints versus the gameplay complaints. I tend to be more annoyed by the pacing conversation. I tend to feel like people compare 2 and 3 and they're just like complete amnesiacs when it comes to like what happens in KH2. Like they just do not remember that nothing happens in between Land of Dragons to Pride Lands, and then again when you get over the middle point. At least when you play KH3, every time you beat a Disney World, you get a scene of characters who we know matter, right? Instead of fucking around with Aladdin for 3 hours, and then fucking around with Mulan for 3 hours, and not being broken up by anything. And you could take all the qualms you want with how KH3 is set up, with how you think, oh, the Keyblade War having to have everybody there and fight for the first time there, that makes it weak. Like, I can be agreeable to that to an extent. But if you're going to tell me that, like, you're not interested by... Xemnas, Larxene, Demix, Luxord, all talking in the graveyard. Even if it's setting up future shit, like, at least something is happening, right? Like, at least you beat a world and you're rewarded with characters that have stakes in the actual game, and not just, like, Disney schlock over and over and over. So.
Yeah, I mean, this is really kind of just what's more annoying, people dunking on KH3's story or people dunking on KH3's gameplay. And I find the gameplay complaints to be a little bit more acceptable. Yeah. Not the floaty reason exactly, but just like other things that have come up, like the frequency of the rides and stuff like that.
Right.
Like things like that make a little bit more sense to me. The pacing thing just feels a little bit like an ass pull, a rectum derived complaint, really.
Yeah.
So I've never quite bought it. The pacing, as we talked about, is really not that much worse than it is in any of the other games. It's just different.
Well, in fact, I think it's better than it is in 2,
Yeah, right. And as far as floatiness, as I said before, like, I don't think that is always a bad thing. Like, sometimes floaty could be more fun.
Yeah. And like PJ says,
all right with me.
Yeah, it's always compared to 2, and it's always a package deal with people saying that the KH2 pacing is so good. And I just, like, I do not get it. Like, I get when people say, like, all right, well, it's not, like, there's nothing interesting happening for, like, huge swaths of the game, but I really love those parts where things are happening. And if you value that enough to put 2 over 3 in that regard, then fine, like, I get it. I, like, don't agree, but, like, I understand, like, you valuing those 3 big moments a lot more than the kind of slower drip that KH3 gives you. But, like, I need to, like, be satiated with content as I'm playing through this. Like, I'm so appreciative of KH3 showing me scenes, even if it's just Riku and Mickey talking and doing an exposition dump and reading Garnet. Like, that's the weakest one. Like, that's the weakest scene that you get in between Disney Worlds, and, like, I'd still rather that than, like, going right from one Disney World to the next. Yeah. So... Yes. I just think, like, it's so much more refreshing to play through KH3 and do the Disney stuff because, like, there's at least a little bit of intrigue inserted along the way, whereas it's such a slog in KH2. So I'm gonna advance that.
Yes.
Okay. And as did the chat. All right. Terra is dumb versus Ice Cream Line is bad. It's Terra is dumb for me. It's always gonna be that over the Ice Cream Line. So.
Terra is dumb is a much more indefensible take, in my opinion. Like, as I've kind of been using for justification on other ones here, the Ice Cream Line, I could see how somebody could believe it.
Like, you get where I'm coming from when I explain it.
Believe it, including regular Pat.
Right.
I respect it. I respect it.
Whereas,
I don't feel like it's bad faith.
Yeah. Whereas I always think Terra is dumb is bad faith or a very lazy reading of the game. So, and anytime this is brought up, like, I feel like nobody has evidence to the contrary. Like, nobody's like, well, if you look at this scene, like, he clearly is being dumb. Like, the one time is, like, he gets duped by Captain Hook. Like, that's, like, that's, like, the biggest moment there. But, like, you kind of have to give him a little bit of slack when he's, like, dealing with Xehanort. And we haven't really delved into, like, why we don't think he's that dumb. But, he's brought up to respect and revere people who are masters. Ericus is, also a flawed parental figure. So, like, his head has been filled for, like, 20-something years with, like, this sort of faux like patriotism towards masters. So like of course the people in his life who hold that title, this thing that he has been told like is really important and cool thing that you should want to be, when people talk to him, he's gonna believe them. He's not playing his PSP and looking at the screen and seeing how evil Xehanort looks because it reminds him of different villains from different media. Like that's such a baby brain way of looking at this. Oh, that's can't you tell that he's evil because he's bald and he hunches over and he's doing like weird little finger wiggles? Like that's not how Terra operates because he's a character in that story. They don't know what tropes are. So, you know, and like Maleficent, manipulated him in that one moment where he did something regrettable, which is when Aurora's heart was stolen. Like she literally possessed him. Like I just can't like, and I think people rewrite that into thinking like, oh, she tricked him into doing it. No, like she literally, like he glowed green when she like pointed her staff at him. You know, like I just don't even understand how people come up with this. So.
Yeah, maybe I only have like a couple people in mind, but I always feel like the Terra's dumb take always comes along with like a really smug tone, which makes me hate it even more.
Sure, I totally understand.
Like, like I would really like to see how these people interact with like their fathers and things like that. It's just like you just like not some just because like some dads are bad. Like,
yeah, right.
Like I don't know, it's not always very well thought out, though they think it is. So, yes.
Okay, we'll move along to the final four. We have Disney World should be scrapped going forward versus KH2 Prologue is boring. Kiwi, I think this take is going to win. I think this Disney World is being scrapped. I think it's so bad. I just think... Like, again, it's such a broadly incorrect take, and you might not see it as often as these other ones, but, like, it is so misinformed. Like, it's just coming from such a bad place. Like, I don't know who is playing these games and is rooting for that. Like, I mean, I know there are comments, but, like, I've never had, like, a reasonable conversation with any of them. I just don't get it. Like, I can see people playing the KH2 Prologue and finding it not as fun as, you know, going through Disney World and fighting things. Like, I tend to value what the KH2 Prologue does, but, like, I get it. I just cannot understand in what universe where you think this is, like, a reasonable thing that could possibly happen. You know?
It's the ultimate edgelord's take.
Yeah, absolutely.
It needs to be dismissed. The KH2 Prologue one is bad, but it's like, you know, maybe there's like 1% of people who could like pull it off, but nobody could pull off the Disney World's being scrapped situation.
Like, I mean, when someone, right, when someone comments on a video that like, I really think that we should do away with the Disney Worlds and just focus on Final Fantasy stuff or Cage original things, like I automatically think, and I'm sorry if this is rude, I think that you're like 12. Like, I just get the impression that you're, like an edgy, sort of teen-aged person who, like, doesn't understand how these games work. And maybe that's rude of me and not to insult any 12-year-old viewers who disagree, but it's just, like, I just think it's such a, like, you're just missing everything. Like, you do not get it. You do not get how these games are developed and, like, what's going into, like, the money that goes into this. Like, it's just never going to be, like, again, I will eat a Funko Pop if we play KH4, or really any KH game where you're not stepping foot into a Disney World. It's nuts to me.
It's not Kingdom Hearts if there's not Disney.
Right. Then you, if you don't want Disney, go play Final Fantasy or go play The World Ends With You. Like, these things exist, right? We already have games by Square Enix with, like, similar themes and character archetypes that is devoid of Disney content. Like, if you're really aching for that, we have stuff for you, you know? This is the bread and butter. This is the literal thesis statement of the series in terms of, like, its constitution as a video game. So it's like, I think we're going to advance that pretty handily, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Though
all right.
The Kate Prologue take is terrible.
It's very bad, yeah. Let's not mince words here. A lot of these takes that do not make it further are still dog shit and awful. Okay.
They're dog shit.
They're dog shit. All right. Last in the final four, KH3 pacing worse than KH2's versus Terra is dumb. Oh man, they're both so bad. Scully the Kid, thank you for the follow there. What's your gut reaction here, Kiwi? Yeah.
Terra is dumb?
I think... Oh man, I think I'm more annoyed by the pacing thing. Like, I think it's so much... it's such a broader conversation.
Right, yeah.
So, and I feel like it comes up more. Like, I'm not really getting into arguments or making videos about why Terra isn't that dumb. But,
Sure.
like, this is just, like, so core to everything for me. I get so annoyed when I see it.
There was a lot of feelings. It's so core to me.
Yeah. It's really core. So I think my gut reaction is to advance that one. But the Terra one is so bad too. It's tough. Chat has Terra as dumb pretty handily ahead. The pacing take is worth. I think it's a fair take to say I just want to get to the point after all this build up. I get so annoyed by the people who shit on KH3 just because they aren't blinded by nostalgia. Terra is dumb is not that bad of a take.
It is.
Yeah, it is really bad. It's really bad, I think. Because there's really, like, and people were making that take in, like, 2011, right? Whereas in that, like, you're just looking at one campaign's worth of content, and, like, somehow you still misconstrue it to be that way. Like, I just don't know how that happens. Like, I could get, like, with how it happened with me with the Mickey thing, where it's, like, it's been years. Like, 2017 was, like, when 0.2 came out, and I feel like 2019 or so is, or, like, before and after KH3, I was like, oh, yeah, like, Mickey left Aqua in the Realm of Darkness. Because Anti-Aqua says that. Like, she is a character in the game who, like, lies about that. Whereas the Terra is dumb thing has been around forever, and it's, like, something that was so immediately ass-pulled. I'm so baffled by it. So they're both very bad takes, I think.
Aqua and Ven are both dumber than Terra? Ooh, that's a fun take.
I don't know if they're dumber, but I think that there's a case that they're all equally as dumb as each other.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I kind of go back and forth on that. I think Ericus is also dumb, so they're all dumb. Everyone who lives on that fucking land of departure is an idiot.
Yes.
What were you leaning towards? Were you leaning towards Terra is dumb?
I think, like, initially, yes, but the pacing one is more, like, of a larger, more annoying, less niche discussion.
Yeah.
Of this. You know, it's really the dividing line for Kingdom Hearts fans.
I think so. I think it's one of the big ones. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I think the chat voted for Terra, but I think Kiwi and I are in agreement on the pacing one. It's a very undemocratic bracket, but, you know, that's what happens when there's, you know, an odd number of participants, and two of them are usually in lockstep on things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's what happens when you put your entire being into a single set.
That's right. All right. We have our final matchup here. This is the championship. Disney World should be scrapped going forward. An 8 seed versus the 1 seed. KH3 pacing is worse than KH2's. Well, I certainly get into more arguments about the 1 seed, but I am more understanding and forgiving of that perspective than the 8 seed. Right?
Wait.
Like, sorry, go ahead.
Which one is more forgivable?
I think I can forgive the 1 seed more, even though I truly despise it. Because I can find a place where I can understand people thinking, okay, yes, Land of Dragons through Pride Lands ×2 is boring, but there are really good things in Twilight Town, Radiant Garden, and World That Never Was that elevate KH2 to be a more pleasant experience, story-wise, over KH3 for me. I can see it. I cannot see someone thinking, I cannot wrap my brain around a logical human being coming to the conclusion that in order for the series to prosper or continue at all, we need to trim the Disney stuff out.
Yeah, that really is just...
It's so bad.
Really awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it needs to go, I think. Yeah. I think it needs to go.
I think it's the winner. I think this is the first time in regular Pat history that the 8 seed, or the lowest seed, wins the bracket, and over a 1 seed, no less. But this is the putrid king of Dogshit Mountain. Disney World should be scrapped going forward. It is the winner. Congratulations, you awful piece of shit thing. You dirty, filthy little monster. You orc. You goblin. You win.
It really stinks.
It's really smelly. So, yeah, maybe you can take qualms with it being an 8 seed. Like Rom said, it's seeded by how often we see the argument, and it's not something that we're going to see. I mean, I don't know. I might put it above some other things. I feel like I might see this Disney World being scrapped thing more often than Sora being the master of masters, or the Monstro thing, or the ice cream thing. Like, I think it's getting some momentum in this, between KH3 and KH4 era. So maybe, make it like a 6 or a 5 seed. I don't know. But it's the stinkiest one. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter what the seeds are. It's a stinky seed. It's all smelly, and it's the worst.
That's right.
So we did it.
They really smell. They really smell both.
Yeah, it's a very, very stenchy thing. And thank you all for voting, even if we overruled your votes. Sorry, it happens. And Kiwi, thank you for helping us crown the King of Shit Mountain. I appreciate it.
Certainly, it got a little hot there for.
It did. Kiwi's feet were being held to the fire, certainly during that early portion. But I think we're all on the same page, right? At the end of the day, we all love these games. We're all one dysfunctional family, and these are just silly little video game things. No one's mad at anybody, right? Everything's okay. Let's clap for Kiwi. Throw up your Kiwi emotes. Yeah, we all love Kiwi. It's fine.
Oh, thank you, Daddy. Thank
you. So yeah, there you go. I'm gonna switch over to BBS. We're gonna be playing as Aqua. I gotta do some Rumble racing, Kiwi.
Question.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I gotta fight all of the super bosses. When will we get worst regular Pat and company take bracket? Like the worst takes that we think are good. I don't think I can be partial to that. I think that'd be really difficult to run as being regular Pat. That makes it difficult, but. We do have a regular Pat video bracket that I think we might have regular GF on to commentate on. We're going to be figuring out what my best video is, so that might be happening next Tuesday. But there you go. I think I'm going to take a quick break so I can get a refill on my drink and also piss. Kiwi, you're obviously free to stick around, but if you got to run, that is also totally fine.
I'd chill for a couple minutes.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go on break, and we will be right back. Let me just pause this playlist, and I'll end the VOD here. So, bye, VOD people.